Yeah, what you want is one user to turn to several users, right? Like you want them to share it enough and to get
Yes.
other people to interact. And that's the kind of product-led, organic, viral, K factor, choose your buzzword growth that people are looking for.
Welcome to Frank Growth. I'm Jason Shafton, and I run the growth consulting firm Winston Francois. Around here, we tell the truth about growing. The good, the bad, and the you can't say it out loud ugly. Every episode, we get tactical with operators, investors, and builders about what works, what breaks, and what to do next. No fluff, no vanity metrics, no hustle theater, just signal. This is Frank Growth. Let's get into it. All right, today's guest is Dan Kessler, and our topic is getting your mind right for growth. Before we bring Dan on, a quick riff on today's topic. Most founders think consumer growth is a paid media problem. Spend more, grow more, hope the LTV math works out. But the operators who build things that last think differently. They think in systems. 3 things that separate sustainable consumer growth from the treadmill. First, product loops over paid loops. If your users aren't sharing, recommending, or coming back on their own, no amount of spending will fix that. Portfolio thinking over single product thinking. When you own an audience, the question isn't just, how do I grow this app? It's, what else does this audience need? And third, packaging is strategy. Pricing, bundling, monetization aren't just afterthoughts, they are growth levers. Here are 3 traps I see all the time. First, treating partnerships as a shortcut before the core motion works. Second, spending on acquisition while ignoring the product's natural shareability. And third, pricing by instinct instead of testing what people will actually play. That's the frame we'll use today with Dan. Let's go. Dan, welcome to Frank Growth.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
So coming back to the days we were together at Headspace, you led partnerships there, which I got to watch and see some really incredible partnerships come to be. So things like Nike and Spotify, Weight Watchers, the American Medical Association, those really drove tremendous growth and were these kind of big channel partnerships, not just like cool logos or press releases. And I'd love to hear when you think about partnerships, what is it about a partnership that will ultimately move the needle?
It's a good it's a good question. I wish it was an easier one because I think it's like a fairly complicated thing to think about.
Break it down for us as simple as you can.
So when I think about a good partnership, and this could be anything strategic, right? So I'm not referring to like an enterprise deal or like a email swap. It's really like, hey, you're building something together. There's really three variables in the equation. One is like audience access distribution. Like, hey, does this partner help you reach a wider audience? And it doesn't just mean volume. It could be a highly qualified audience you can't really get elsewhere. The second variable would be around brand equity. Like, does the partner help you appear a certain way you can't really appear on your own? Are you borrowing brand equity from them to help build your brand? And then the third would be like innovation or speed. Like, are they helping you do something faster that you can't do on your own? Right. And so I think the key in this with like, hey, how do you make a successful partnership is to think about this criteria and to really reflect on, this idea of distribution and credibility. Right. So if you just have credibility from a partnership, but no distribution, congratulations, like pat yourself on the back. It might be a good slide in a fundraising deck or something, but like it's not really achieving anything for you. And a lot of people pursue those. They want the logo on the slide, and that might help close another deal or raise some money or something, but it's not actually valuable. It doesn't create any enterprise value directly. So if you get past the patting yourself in the back kind of phase, you got to really figure out who is giving you both the brand equity that you need, the credibility that you're looking for, and the distribution that you're looking for. So I think there's like, Weight Watchers is a really good example of that, where they had this audience of really engaged, older boomer moms, boomer grandmoms, I guess, that trust Weight Watchers. They go to it every January. And this is not an audience that we were really attracting on our own. The brand itself was definitely more skewed a lot younger. Headspace's brand skewed a lot younger. And so what we were able to do was really like introduce ourselves to this audience that we weren't reaching at scale. Millions and millions and millions of these boomer moms were learning about meditation and mindfulness through this partnership. So that was really, I think, valuable. And we really triangulated on that particular weight loss brand through these kind of lenses of, okay, like we can reach this audience we really want. And we also can do so in a way where they'll trust us because they already trust Weight Watchers so much.
Yeah, that pass through of trust and credibility is such an important part. And it's interesting. I just remember on the marketing side at Headspace, it was explained to me very simply as, oh, we don't partner with people that are smaller than us. That's like very, very lacking in nuance. Like the nuance you just gave was great, but I think it was a good lesson because it was like, if you have a smaller audience than Headspace, then we don't we were not interested. We were always trying to punch up. And I think
Right.
that was smart.
Yeah, well, I think it's, but I think the important thing is, and this is, I think, key when thinking about doing these strategic partnerships is we were able to do that because we were bringing a lot to the table they couldn't do on their own. Yes, Nike was a lot bigger than Headspace, especially at the time, still true. And what we were able to do was give them incredibly high quality meditation, sleep content that they could not make on their own.
Mm.
They didn't have the credibility to make on their own, and that other apps that were out there couldn't do at the same level that we could. So we were able to partner with these, companies that were bigger than us because we were bringing quite a lot to the table. And I think that's like kind of a maybe an important.
What a good partnership looks like is both partners are getting something meaningful. You
Yeah, and
mentioned
I think
value
it's
in
like the
terms of the
classic.
user subscribing to an app. We're talking about value between two partners now.
Right, and I think the important thing is that we never paid for any of these partnerships. Like, there's never money exchanging hands. We certainly received money from enterprise clients. That's a different category. We weren't like paying anyone to give us distribution, and that's not just because I personally, cheap and don't want to spend a lot of money on stuff.
You're not going to bring that into this conversation.
It's all good. I wear it like a badge of honor. The necessary kind of second order of that, of not paying for it, is it forces you to both bring enough value to the table. And once money exchanges hands, the dynamics are really weird, right? Like once you're paying someone for something, there's expectations and there's SLAs and
Yes.
there's, requirements around who they're going to email or reach out to and why and on what terms. And like you're expecting something from that money. So it forces the dynamic in exchange to be monetary and to get something from that money. And that's actually kind of a weird thing when what you're actually wanting to do is create a strategic initiative together where you're both bringing a lot of value to the table. And if that's the lens, and this is like an infinite partnership, you can keep doing stuff together versus I gave you money. Did I get value from that money? No, on to the next partnership, which ends up being honestly like a recipe for failure.
I like that. And I think that lens is how I'd love for you to answer the next question, which is, there's founders out there, and some of them may be listening, that are treating partnerships as this silver bullet. Well, if I go partner with this company, this brand, they'll give me the distribution I need to be successful. Partnerships is my silver bullet. When, especially for early stage companies, should partnerships actually enter the growth playbook? And what do you see as being first before you go and try to do big partnership deals?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think the problem is that partnerships are much more along the long-term, organic, brand-driven growth strategy. So if you think about organic growth and brand equity over a long period of time, things like SEO and now GEO, things like partnerships, social, those are all critical elements in that strategy, but you can't really measure success over a short period of time. You can look back, as we're doing right now, years later, say, oh, wow, that worked. But, month to month, really hard to measure the success. So, if you're really early on and you're trying to grow your audience and you need to, show results before your next fundraise because you're burning cash, partnerships are tough. And so it's a really hard thing to fund because it has to be fully resourced in a couple of different ways. One is you need to have, internal alignment across a number of different departments to deliver on a partnership. So you have to have the product and design support. You need to have social media support. You need to like literally have finance support, plus a biz dev team that can go out and search for these things
Mm-hmm.
and close these deals. And that's just a
Right.
lot for a very small company to have. So I think early on, you're probably still just focused on either product led growth or some version of performance marketing or growth
Mm.
marketing. But as you're scaling, there's a ceiling to that stuff, right? There's only so much you can do when, handing money over to Mark Zuckerberg to be on Instagram or on Facebook or perhaps now Threads. So as you start scaling the performance marketing, what you need to do is start having these other elements at play, and they're not measurable. So you need to have, I think, an agreement between both the C-suite and the board that you're investing in these long-term initiatives, GEO, SEO, social partnerships, brand marketing that will drive long-term value. And so I think it
But
really
that's
comes down
much
to,
harder to measure, is your point.
it's really hard to measure. You'd have to have extra dollars for it, frankly. And so if you have limited dollars, so right now, we're a 8-figure company, growing, profitable at the Mind Company, and 3 successful apps. We're profitable, and we haven't raised money in what is it now, 7 years, and so we have to make really, really hard choices. So those other areas are actually much harder to resource for us because we know that we've got measurable channels across things like App 11 and Meta and TikTok and everything else.
Mm.
And it's really hard for us to say, oh, let's pull dollars away from that and put it over here because we think that might work in the next couple of years. So I do think it's tough as an early stage company. The playbook is probably product led growth, ideally, plus performance marketing, growth marketing. And then as you scale, you want to start investing in these other areas that will give you long term durability. Well, it goes back to the credibility thing I was mentioning earlier, which is quite literally great social posts about this partnership. Like, will look really nice on a deck. It creates no enterprise value for your company. And I think people are certainly, I think, distracted by the hype of the LinkedIn post, the TikTok post, the social post, or my board will be happy at the next board meeting because we closed this really fun deal that gives us absolutely no economics. And you could like twist yourself into some kind of a logic pretzel of, oh, but this will actually open up these other doors and these people will discover us. And that sometimes works. But like, you're not doing it for that reason. You're doing it for the hype. You're not doing it because you've got some elaborate chess game.
Yeah.
And so I think better to admit that, like you want the hype. But if you really want to be serious about it, I do think the distribution plus brand plus innovation calculation, that algorithm is really important. And if you have that lens, you can have some successful partnerships.
So let's talk about Citizen. You had this ops team there that was like writing incident descriptions so that people would actually screenshot and share them. There were like Instagram accounts dedicated to this. I'm curious your visibility inside of Headspace and Citizen and even now the Mind Company. How do you think about these kind of product growth loops where users are really doing the marketing for you?
This is a great question. It really has shifted, I think, in the last 5 years, mostly because of permission changes on the Apple side. So for example, it used to be sync your contacts and then go nuts spamming everybody from your content. It's harder to do on Apple now. So a lot of the levers are just more challenging to pull off when it comes to product-led growth. What Citizen did, and this was just, I think partially just the kind of the genius of the CEO founder was, it's one thing to send out a push notification that there is a robbery at a 7-Eleven, right? That's interesting. But like, is it clickable? Is it something that people will like tap into? What Citizens team, there's an actual 24/7 team of writers that would like listen to police radio, and there's obviously algorithms and AI that help filter through stuff. But what these actual humans would do is write these incident descriptions for push notifications that were rich and so it wasn't just the 7-Eleven was robbed. 7-Eleven was robbed by a guy in a Hawaiian shirt carrying a machete, right? And so the phrase I use is screenshotability, which is like, I think the basics of how people share content these days, which is there's something interesting they find, it's funny or it's compelling or it's relevant. They screenshot it and they send it. And so I think what Citizen has done really well, and they scaled without any marketing to 4+ million, I don't know what it is now, probably a lot higher monthly active users, but pretty quickly was recognizing this is part of the human condition. We want to share stuff. We want to screenshot stuff.
Yeah.
So today, I don't know, I don't know what the actual magic is besides having really, really high quality content and really good design, really good images that people will want to engage in, screenshot and share is the viral mechanic that you're looking for.
What's driven all of that, right? Well, take us through the thinking behind how you launched Spark and what you did there, and what are the takeaways for other founders that are thinking about building and launching, consumer subscription apps?
Yeah, what you want is one user to turn to several users, right? Like you want them to share it enough and to get other people to interact. And that's the kind of product-led, organic, viral, K-factor, choose your buzzword growth that people are looking for. Easier said than done, right? As I mentioned earlier, a lot of the core mechanics that we had available for product-led growth, we don't really have available anymore. So what you need to do is hijack existing social networks and ways that people currently interact. So Spark is actually very different in many ways from our other apps, Elevate and Balance. Elevate and Balance, they're all well-designed and beautiful, and they are good for your mind. And that's the thesis of our company. We can build really engaging products that actually benefit your brain versus hurting your brain or creating brain fog. We want to cure it, not cause it. So Elevate and Balance both are heavy subscription apps. So we have a hard paywall. You show up and we ask you for your money or to often do a free trial to experience the app. Spark, we don't have that at all. There is a subscription, but it's discoverable via the archives if you want to play previous days' games. And we did this specifically because we felt that in the modern world where you're paying a lot of money and the CPMs keep going up every year, we just wanted to rely on the relevance of the content. So every day in Spark, there's a new theme and new games that are all tied together. So yesterday was about stripes, and that's everything from zebra stripes, to referee stripes. And they're all stitched together, and you're playing these games learning about stripes. And there's a lot of like really interesting stuff built in. You learn about barcode, for example. And so what we track are people sharing their scores and taking screenshots of the app. And we track this religiously every single day. And we know what types of content and what types of themes will drive better sharing. And so we were like orienting the company in that direction. We chose this approach for Spark because we wanted to have product-led growth. We wanted to make sure our niche users turn into more niche users. And so the app has a lot of rich images that we don't create anything with AI. It's all literally licensed images that we use. The colors are very vibrant, and the copy is incredibly engaging and creative and succinct. And so people are taking screenshots of really funny things they're finding inside the app and sharing it with their friends. People are sharing their scores, much like Wordle. We have 3, and we're beta testing our 4th game right now. And so you can share your score to show whether you got perfect that day, or we have this gold, silver, bronze, medal kind of mentality for how you're performing in the games, and people share them. And so this is really important. And what it's led to for us is steady organic growth without spending a lot or any money on things like influencers, micro influencers, or performance marketing, which is crazy because most apps see a decline when they launch. What we were able to do was actually launch with a lot of users. Because first of all, we did market Spark to the existing Elevate and Balance users. So having this network of apps is actually quite beneficial. So you can start with hundreds of thousands of users on day one. That's a benefit for us. It's a huge asset for us as a company. And then those users were sharing this enough that they were turning to more and more and more users. So whereas you see this huge decline, we haven't seen that. We've been seeing steady daily active users and growing weekly and monthly active users. What we are doing now, though, and this is kind of an interesting new thing, is we're testing our way into a bundle subscription. So we believe very strongly in mental fitness, and we've created these apps quite intentionally. So we and a lot of this research shows, but like a healthy mind, having a really healthy mind in the modern world means that you are sharp, like you can think quickly, you've got good vocabulary, you can do mental math. You have a emotionally regulated mind. So are you sleeping well? Do you practice mindfulness? Do you know how to relax? And then the third pillar of mental fitness for us is knowledgeable. Like, do you understand how the world works? And this kind of goes to critical thinking or like pure knowledge base. So each of our apps satisfies those key areas. And what we're doing now is we're selling subscription to all 3. So, it's one thing to say, hey, do you want brain training, or do you want meditation and mindfulness, or do you want to learn something, micro learning? But it's very different if the value proposition is mental fitness is hard for all of us. And what you need one day is different than what you need the next day, right? Like one day you might have anxiety, and another day you might have brain fog, or you might feel like you're just not really learning about the world enough, and you want to do a little bit better there. So these are all like key things that people experience throughout the year. And by offering these apps together, it allows you, as the consumer to subscribe to them all and then use them when you need them. And so you actually have much more value throughout the year than you would have with any app individually.
I like it. I mean, I think it's really smart. And, as a user of the apps, I'm kind of impressed. I'm impressed and also curious about this portfolio concept. Because for many, many years, Elevate, and the company used to be Elevate Labs, like it was just Elevate. And so talk about building a portfolio of consumer apps versus just going deep on one and just staying Elevate forever.
It's a great question. There's a couple ways to think about it. And by the way, I don't know if what we're doing is right. Like I'm not
Seems to be working.
Seems to be working now, but
Yeah.
Open to new information. So basically the overall premise here is that, well, let's go back to the story. The story is that we had to Elevate. We were polling, we talked to our users all the time because we're that kind of a company. And they were saying, hey, I love this. I love the brain training. I love learning about math. I love improving my memorization and my reading speed. But I really want to work on anxiety or focus in a different way or depression. And kind of through that, we just started doing a lot of it, surveys, experiments, user research. And it kind of came like, hey, people want meditation. And the company looked at the market and said there was this is, late 2010s, that there was something lacking. So our meditation app, unlike other meditation apps, is highly personalized. This came from our research. People don't want a one size fits all, audio file. You open up any meditation app right now, and they're essentially glorified MP3 players, right? There's a library of audio, 10 to 20 minutes long, and everyone hears the same stuff. With ours, we ask you questions about you, your life, what's going on, and the audio actually personalizes, it compiles on the fly. And what you hear that day is unique to you. So we had a unique approach, a unique perspective. And I think why the portfolio is critically important for this kind of a strategy is because the audiences are different enough
Mm.
that it's hard to market like one super app. So everyone's like, oh, why don't you do a super app or combine everything in one app? And it's like, well, that actually is really weird and actually harder these days with IDFA deprecation because it used to be you could actually market a specific ad. So to go back to our Headspace days, you could market a sleep ad and then have a sleep funnel. You can't do that in the App Store anymore. You don't really know where people are coming from. You don't know what ads they saw or what they clicked on or what their affinity group is. And sometimes you get close, but now you've got these long boardings where you're asking a lot of questions to try to figure out how to make it a personalized experience.
Mm.
So we split it up because marketing a meditation app or marketing sleep or marketing anxiety reduction is different than marketing vocab or memorization skills. Similarly with Spark, a very different experience. This is more about learning something new about the world every day, not about training your mind in another way. And so by having a portfolio approach, you're able to do a couple different things. One is it creates the faster product development cycles. So we're not cramming stuff into one experience, which takes forever and then might break something else. We're building a new app from whole cloth, from scratch, and doing a 0 to 1. And, our founder CEO is the best in the business at 0 to 1 for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And by doing that, we can iterate much faster, test a lot of different things, and create something that has a high value for people. On top of that, it allows us to market it quite specifically to specific audiences, whether that's via partnerships like we discussed, it could be via performance marketing or by social or by micro influencers. The audience that's into micro learning or like fun facts and trivia is a little bit distinct from meditation and mindfulness. So it allows us to target our niche audiences and acquire them pretty efficiently. And then you're able to also retain them a lot better, right? Like the app doesn't become this like buffet of a million different choices. You know why you're there. And so people actually engage a lot better when it's not a super app. So it seems to be working for us from both a product development and a growth perspective. And now, we're going towards this bundling strategy because we know that there's more value in these things combined than in them independent.
How you've now kind of seen this from a lot of vantage points. How do you think a great operator should be involved in creative decisions, whether that's like looking at copy or brand design, product design versus, staying in your lane and the spreadsheets and the, who's getting hired to do what and HR, finance, all that good stuff?
I think you'll get different answers from different people, but my overall philosophy is that the goal as an operator, the goal as COO is to really not be involved in anything. Right? The goal is that you have the processes and the workflows and the goals and the people all in the right spots where the machine is running efficiently. And then you only step in to improve or to rebuild parts of it. So, if you're doing copy as part of your job, that would, I think, point to there being, a gap in your staff or a gap in your workflow and your process. And that's, by the way, not bad, right? I get involved in copy and creative all the time. It's not like the machine that worked for you at, $10 million of ARR is going to work for you at $50 million of ARR. And so you are inherently involved in finding these gaps and finding these better workflows. As an operator or as a CEO or the founder, you have the most strategic understanding of what needs to happen. So often my strategic comprehension of what the business has to look like over the next couple of years is just separated a bit from like the average person at the company. And so you need to kind of dive in to give that context on a regular basis. It's really hard for people who are day in, day out doing like something really specific, designing the ads or building the funnels or making the apps to understand how that fits into the bigger picture.
All right. So lightning round, let's do some quick ones. All right. So what's one metric you look at every single week that most consumer app teams ignore?
I really like ARPU or LTV per impression or per sign up.
Nice. If the kind of top of funnel is dry and paid ads are paused, what's the first organic lever you're pulling?
Screenshotability, think super strong.
Love it. What's the hardest growth lesson you've had to learn maybe more than once?
Apparently there's no silver bullets. Who knew?
Yeah, for sure. If a growth stage consumer app hired you tomorrow, what's the first thing that you'd look at?
Probably their M1, M2, M3 retention.
Nice. Dan, this was specific. It was real. It's exactly why I do this show. Where can people find you online? Anything else that you want to point listeners to go check out?
Yeah, well, first of all, plug for our apps, Elevate, Balance, and Spark. They're awesome. Also, we're the only company in the world that won App of the Year twice. Both Elevate won App of the Year and Balance won App of the Year. Fingers crossed on Spark.
Awesome. Dan, and where can folks find you online personally and get in touch?
My handle's DA Kessler across everything, so come find me.
We'll get you. All right, man. Thank you so much for coming on. You were great.
All right. Thanks, Jason. Have a good one.
That was Dan Kessler and a playbook for building durable consumer growth by getting the fundamentals right. Here are my top 3 takeaways from my interview with Dan. First, partnerships needs distribution and credibility, not just logos. Dan's framework is audience access, brand equity, and speed. If a partnership only gives you credibility without distribution, congrats, you've got a nice slide for your fundraising deck and create zero enterprise value. And never pay for strategic partnerships. The moment money changes hands, you're expecting something from that money, which kills that long-term dynamic. Partnerships belong in the playbook once product-led growth and performance marketing are already working, not as a silver bullet for early-stage companies. Second, screenshotability, I love that term, is the viral mechanic. At Citizen, the team didn't just push 7-Eleven robbed, they wrote 7-Eleven robbed by a guy in a Hawaiian shirt carrying a machete. Rich, colorful, shareable. At Spark, they track sharing and screenshots religiously every single day, and they know which themes drive better sharing. High quality content plus great design plus natural shareability equals organic growth without spending on performance marketing. Third, your existing audience is your most undervalued asset. Spark launched to the top of the App Store without paid marketing by activating the millions of users already in the Elevate and Balance network. Most apps see a straight decline after launch, but Spark continued to grow organically because users were sharing enough to replace any churn. Before you spend on acquisition, ask what you can do with the audience you already own. All right, here's one action you could take this week that's 10 minutes or less. Look at your product and ask, is this designed to be screenshot worthy? Identify one moment, a score, a result, a piece of content that could be richer or more colorful or more shareable. That's where organic growth starts. That's Frank Growth. If this gave you something you can use this week, follow the show and share it with one operator or founder who needs to hear it. I'm Jason Shafton from Winston Francois. We help tech companies build sustainable, repeatable growth with a proven operating system. Show notes and takeaways are in the description. Be frank and keep growing.